The experimental band Eclectic Sound Orchestra, which played jazz, pop and rock in the Kyiv Planetarium. Arrangements from Louis Armstrong to Metallica and Lady Gaga. Watch Pro Art to discover the space perspective of the perception of eternal music. This is a product of synthesis. This is an unusual experience, it's cool. Jazz is a delicate matter. When he's a musician at heart, he'll play. Oh, this is really cool rock. Most of all, I like this program, which is called Jazz Rock Pop. I think it will be interesting. It's simply very cool. In 2017, young professional musicians and composers formed a very unusual band in Kyiv that completely defied the stereotypes of an orchestra. The variety of musical genres using digital technology has made it possible for the band to achieve a fundamentally new sound of music in a modern way and allowed the Eclectic Sound Orchestra to become one of the most popular cover bands in Ukraine. We took all the best from the music of the past, mixed it using technical capabilities of the present time, and produced some kind of a new product. So we have a classical repertoire, a non-classical repertoire, traditional arrangements, and a modern beat to electronic sound. Serhiy Lyhomanenko harbored the idea to form an independent musical group for a long time, but under the arches of the planetarium, the music was first heard only recently. Indeed, this is what we were looking for and found here. This is a huge projection dome with 830 square meters of projection. This is an action that immerses the listener not only in audio images, but also video images. Who are the creators of this unusual show? While they are young musicians and composers, many of whom collaborate with leading orchestras of the country, they are in constant search, creation and development of new musical forms. This is the best young musical personnel. We simply found a common ideological ground with them.
Поехали еще раз.
Taking into account the fact that we're young and contemporary people, I would say this is unusual. This is a new genre and a new branch. Rehearsals are very good, and the program is very interesting. The techniques and skills of experiments are not specifically taught at the conservatory, the musicians say, but without an academic education, they could not improvise so much with rock or jazz. It opens up different paths. Modern music can also be played. It is now more in vogue than the classics. Such mixing is quite popular and relevant. Everyone is interested. Everyone comes out from such performances with positive emotions, and people invite their friends, and I invite my friends because I myself like to participate here. We studied together. Moreover, Vanya and I are classmates. Of course, I love the classics, but I must admit that I prefer interestingly arranged jazz, pop, and rock music. Classical academic music involves a more subtle work with picking, strokes, and so on. This is a very powerful base, after which you can already experiment and resort to various other styles. This is our mastery in order to play everything from classic to jazz, rock, and do various covers.
у нас есть...
We have excellent opera singers who have already conquered audiences from stages not only in Ukraine but also in Italy, Austria and many other countries. We also have an orchestra with 12 sax players. They represented our country in Croatia. This is not just an orchestra, it is something more.
Это нечто уже большее.
There are a lot of talented classical musicians in Ukraine, but not everyone will cope with such creative know-how, the arranger from Odessa Yuri Yatsuk assures. I think you should have fun with this venture, meaning you did not just come to play. The orchestra plays live, and the creators use synthesizers and rhythmic playback. The synthesis of classical sound and modern hits has turned into an unusual performance, but it became really spheral when accompanied by 3D projections on one of the largest European domes in the Kyiv Planetarium. I visited the planetarium. It is interesting to observe when a great piece of music is accompanied by a brilliant light show. It does not distract the musicians because we mostly look at the score and the conductor. Indeed, we do not have time to look at the dome. The musicians have fun. Unfortunately, they're all immersed in the music, so they don't see what is happening on the ceiling of the dome. Why? We not only look at the notes and everything else, we also raise our heads and see that it's really cool. All music is interconnected. It's one big thing. The orchestra is a universal instrument that can easily be used as in pop music, jazz music, rock music, not to mention only the classics. Actually, I'm a classical musician. This is my first experience in this style. I'm the accompanist of the cello group of the radio orchestra, and I thank them for inviting me. The program is primarily interesting to young people. The classical orchestra appeared in the unusual role of a rock band. It dispelled another stereotype that orchestral music is boring. We do everything possible to interest the audience. This is the first step that a big world will reveal to our young viewers. And maybe next time they will go to the house of organ music, to the opera, to the philharmonic, to the theater. We believe that this music is accessible to everyone. Why not? Why then do anything at all? We somehow try to experiment and interest others. Maybe someone else is doing this. I will not argue that we're the only ones and there's nobody else but us. Both the melodies pouring from the stage and the projections under the dome that execute the function of decoration. All this created fantastic images in the imagination of the audience. There is a sound dramaturgy. If it used to be played on a guitar, now it is played by a string band, and it sounds no less impressive. For example, if we have a bigger lineup, as we sometimes perform, we can have 32 people, and there are as many as 5 first violins, and they will start a solo melody. It's gonna be great. But in order for the music tracks to sound in the unity of different instruments, first of all it was necessary for the arrangers to work hard. They wrote the parts of drums, bass, keyboards and guitars, violins and cellos. And I listened to the originals, looked at how they were composed and tried to write an orchestral arrangement to synergize it with this original. It turns out that the orchestra plays for guitars and vocals. I had to remove the vocal part, remove the guitars and include the cello, the viola and violins. I'm not a fan of rock, but I really like to play. Most of all, my favorite is jazz and pop. The hardest thing was with slow songs, where they play slowly with a bow. I have some difficulties with this. After we have all the arrangements ready, mine and Yuri's, this is all mixed together. We give our visual guy the material to listen to, and he creates the visual image on the dome. The orchestra artists also have their favorites in the repertoire, and here they did their best. The tango in The Scent of a Woman in the version of this arranger sounds very good. I really like to play jazz. My favorite set is very dynamic, great music and great tracks. Then it all comes together. In our program, I prefer a rock set. Most of all, people reacted to Smells Like Teen Spirit. It is difficult and not easy to put jazz, pop and even more so rock music on the score of classical instruments. After all, musicians playing on a trembling violin and a gentle cello must try very hard to convincingly present a heavy beat. The violin can be quite a different instrument. You can do absolutely anything with it. And as you know, playing a violin in rock is not a rare thing. It is often used. We have a wonderful arrangement composer Yevhen Zhaku, who is doing just this. He melds rock, classic and jazz all in one. Here we must not sit here like that. Here we must be a little bit relaxed. In such concerts, an artistic spirit and a slight flavor of academicism is necessary. Musically, there are such moments of heavy rhythm which is very rare for academic musicians to meet. And it's not easy to keep track of everything in the score. They need to grasp it several times, and all goes fine. In the show Jazz, Pop, Rock Under the Starry Sky, popular compositions of famous musicians who were lucky enough to work with symphony orchestras were performed. It's not just fashionable, it is very prestigious to work with an orchestra. Any pop and hard rock performers consider it an honor to play their own concert with a symphony orchestra. Very few venture to do this and very few succeed. There are such bands, but they are far and far between. Mostly these are orchestras that play with live musicians, be it rock or pop. The heroes of our show somehow worked with symphony orchestras, Metallica, Lady Gaga, Madonna. I believe that it is possible to revive this orchestral sphere by creating such covers. Indeed, tickets for concerts in the planetarium sell out. And any classic theater can envy the reaction of the audience. The people took with a bang the non-standard form of the concert, and this is what pleased the musicians most of all. Thank God, our audience is very grateful, but at the same time, we find all possible resources in order to perform at a high level, naturally as our eclectic style demands.
Наш стиль эклектики.
Eclectic philosophy distinguishes them from other traditional orchestras. They create their own unique experiments, but all the musicians of the Eclectic Sound Orchestra understand and appreciate every music genre, regardless of people's personal musical taste. This is the main principle of true professionals in the music industry.